Thank you. I've just kicked the recording off. We've got a few minutes, Alessandro, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll get going.
Correct.
So are you in Tuscany now, or are you
Yes.
on the road? Okay.
Yes, I am in Tuscany.
Will you be going to Verona next week?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
well, Lou's going to be there. He's in Champagne at the moment, working hard by all accounts. So,
today I am in Valle Picciola, so the new project that I am following.
Fantastic!
It's a very beautiful project. So please tell to Lou to come and visit the stand of this new project, because
I will tell. So it's not going to be in the Tuscan stand. It's going to be somewhere else. Is it?
You don't know. It's in the Tuscan pavilion.
Oh, okay.
D16. I send you later all the.
Oh, bravo.
Details.
Okay, that's great. Because yes,
and I'll come in Verona or not?
No, I've been so busy here with marketing and stuff. It really didn't make sense for me to come. And I've got some buying that I have to do in Spain next week. So I just couldn't make all the dates work. So he's on his own. So, it's only 2 days. And to be honest, Alessandro, it's such chaos. It gives me anxiety going to that tasting. Yeah. You know, hundreds and thousands of people. It's not much fun, but hopefully I'm sure it'll do well, because you know Lou handles all the buying, and so it's quite important in fact it's more important for him to meet everybody than for me. So he felt he really wanted to do it this time, so that's good. I was very happy to let him get on with it.
How the situation in Singapore right now?
It's 7 o'clock, whenever you need to go, mate. Yeah?
So, Alessandro, I'm just going to pin your image so everybody can get a look at you. Make sure you don't fall out of the block. We've got a very full house tonight, so not everybody will be on the page. Everybody, thank you so much for joining our Thursday night drinks. It's something I must say I look forward to every week. It's just that one night that's just almost the weekend. And by the end of the online tastings, it feels like Friday already. So it's definitely my favorite day of the week. I'd like you all please to meet Alessandro, who is the winemaker and the driving force behind Castellare. It's a very important time to be seeing Alessandro with the announcement 2 days ago that Castellare is now joined I forget the full French name, Alessandro, of the Bureau of
yes,
Negotiants.
La Place de Négociants. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a big step, and already is making waves around the world. I took a meeting with a negociant today who'd just come in this morning from Paris, and the first thing he said to me was, "Have you heard the news about Castellare?" And I knew it was about to happen. And my take, it's interesting, my personal take, for those of you who aren't aware, there's been a big move in the wine world in the last 18 months or so towards inviting the very top of Italian, South American, North American, and a little bit of Australia as well, to join the negociants who traditionally have sold the very top end of Bordeaux every year. From our point of view, I quite enjoy the streamlined logistics of bringing more wine in from one place. I think one of our biggest challenges in buying direct out of Italy is the cost and the logistics of getting wines from the winery to Livorno and then onto a ship. So to a greater extent, it's going to be an interesting, a positive experience for us. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Alessandro. I'm very excited about these wines tonight. Other than the Sodi, I haven't seen any of these yet. These have just arrived. So we're tasting them all for the very first time. So over to you, Alessandro.
First of all, buongiorno everybody. I'm really happy to. Sorry for you. It's a good evening.
It's buonasera, yeah.
Yes, I'm really sorry, and I misconfused with the Italian time. So, and I'm really happy and honored to be there. Wine Exchange House is one of our dearest and very important partner. And once again, I want to say thanks to all of you to support our brands starting from many years ago. And I am the winemaker of the project, and since almost 30 years. And in the last 2 years, I modified a little bit my focus on the property, because for 27 years I was a winemaker and general manager, and now I am only the winemaker. So I remain as a wine consultant, because at the same time I took the position of the general management of another beautiful project in the Chianti Classico area also, but in a different side, in the Castelnuovo Belardenga area. So Castellare is located in Castellina and Chianti. Castellare is one of the historical realities of Chianti Classico area production, and since the beginning we are following two very important philosophies of production. The first is the organic philosophy: no pesticide, no herbicide are used on the property. And the symbol of our organic philosophy is the beautiful bird that you have behind you, Robert. And that is the symbol of our respect for the environment. Every vintage we change bird, and we have only Poggio and Merli that is the wine that every year remain the same blackbird, because in Italian blackbird means Merlot. So it's considering that Poggio and Merli is 100% Merlot, so it's a common name with the name of the grape varietal. And production is about 350,000 bottles per year, and mostly is the Chianti Classico. 2/3 of the quantity is represented by Chianti Classico, and 1/3 is represented by the IGT Super Tuscan, mostly focused with Sodi, Poggio, Merli, and Coniale. The second important philosophy in Castellare is the respect for a tradition. So in the sense that we don't blend indigenous and international grape varietals together. This is extremely important, because especially for the Chianti Classico line, when you taste the wine, you are sure that you are tasting 100% Sangiovese and Canaiolo, so 100% indigenous grapes in one of the most beautiful part of the Chianti Classico.
It's quite interesting, Alessandro, because there's quite a lot of other producers who make their point by blending Sangiovese with Cabernet and Merlot. In fact, they've gone off in.
I lost you.
National and local varieties completely different.
Yes, I say pass me these terms. Unfortunately, the regulation allowed to use 20% of the international grapes inside of the blend with Sangiovese. That is sadly for me, because I'm trusting 110% in Sangiovese and in the other indigenous grape varietals, and for me it's a terrible mistake to bring inside of the Sangiovese, Cabernet, Merlot, Syrah, Petit Verdot, and any other international grapes, even in 20% of the percentage. It's already too much, because Sangiovese, it's a very delicate, it's a kind of Pinot Noir. So imagine a Pinot Noir, a beautiful Pinot Noir with a 20% Merlot. So you lose 100% of the flavor characteristics, the flavor profile, the tannins texture. So you lose everything, because Sangiovese, it's another very, very delicate and precious grape variety. So that is the reason, because since the beginning, the property, we are extremely focused on the respect for tradition in that sense. And this is the lineup that you are testing today.
Yes, maybe we can look at the first three together, three Chianti Classicos, and then look at the interlopers afterwards. Maybe Alessandro, you could sketch for us your impressions of the 2019 versus 2020 vintage. The first wine we're having tonight is 20, and the other two are 19s.
We first of all, 2019 and 2020 was two very, very good vintages because first of all, the 2019 arrived after two challenging vintages, the 2017 and the 2018, for the opposite reasons. Because the 2017 was extremely dry and 2018 was extremely humid. So the extremely cold season starting from the spring to the beginning of fall. So that, but again, in considering the geographic position of the property, also 2017 and 2018 was two very, very good vintages, but 2019 was an exceptional vintages, and 2020 again. And if I have to say two words of differences between the two, is that the 2019 has probably the biggest power in the last 20 vintages, and at the same time has a beautiful elegance and finesse. The 2020 was probably one of the most elegant vintages ever made in Chianti Classico. So that is 2020 was a really a very, very elegant vintage.
Would I be right in saying that when one has an easy time of it in the winemaking and the viticulture, that tends to lean into a more elegant finish as a vintage? Because certainly some of our people in Montalcino are saying the same thing about 20, that it was easy, it wasn't a hard vintage to cultivate, and that seems to have translated into this.
Following my experience, I start to understand the beauty of one vintage in later spring, because when the flowering is too early, normally is not really good. When it as late as possible, that is the right moment. So means that when the flowering arrived between the first week and the third week of May, that is the right moment. Because there is a general conclusion of the explanation that doing like this, you have normally a very long season. The season starts with the first week of April, that when normally the life of the vine starts, and the finishing with the final harvest, that normally, as much as we try to and we hope, the longest season as possible, because as soon as we, for example, we do the harvest for Sangiovese in second part of October, that is normally one of the best vintage ever.
Okay. So maybe let's look at these three together now. And
the first is Chianti Classico, the second is Riserva, and the third is Poggiale. And the Chianti Classico is 95 Sangiovese, 5 Canaiolo, and fermented in, sorry?
It's okay. It's all right. It's somebody's mute. I'm okay. Keep going, Alessandro.
Okay. So 95 Sangiovese, 5 Canaiolo, fermented in stainless steel and aged for 9 months in French oak, because the French oak is 100% second time, and small French oak 225 liters. And after that, we keep for another 8-9 months in bottle before to release. So about 18 months before starting from the harvest before to release. Following the regulation, the Chianti Classico must be released not before the October 1st after the harvest. So it's about 1 year. We release a little bit later in order to give to the wine a better opportunity to express itself in a best way. Okay. And this wine represents the biggest in terms of number of bottles produced, and this represents about 55% our production. And the second one is the Riserva. That is, Riserva has the same blend of the Chianti Classico regular, so 95 Sangiovese and 5 Canaiolo. But here the aging is little bit longer. So we keep in French oak, also 225, also 100% French oak, for 18 months, and 10% of this new oak. This oak is new.
I have to say, Alessandro, the step up from the number 1 to number 2, the 19, is huge. And I guess it's quite difficult to draw parallels because it's a different vintage. It's a younger wine. For me tonight, the 20 is showing quite green and closed still. But my goodness, going to the Riserva 19, it's just got this dark coal kind of component to it, very minerally. It's absolutely delicious. And at its price point, it's killer.
Minerality is one of the signature of our area, and once again, at 2019, as I said before, so 2019 is one of the strongest. Talking about Sangiovese, that is normally is not one of the strongest grape varieties in the basket of Toscan grapes, but 2019 was really one of the strongest. And then the graphite, the leather, it's a beautiful flavor profile in 2019. I agree with you. But 2020, believe me,
will come.
If you wait a little bit, you can feel it's like a extremely beautiful woman in a long red dress. That is this is my diciamo, no, as association in the 2020. The 2019 is a big boy in a jacket and tie, of course, but it's really strong and big boy. It's like me.
What's fantastic, it has this sort of mouth-watering component to it right now in the mid palate. It's absolutely delicious, and you can see it's going to start creeping into that cedar leather component in 6 to 12 months, which will make it absolutely extraordinary. And it's, thinking at our price point at $55, I'm all over that.
Incredible, yes. And another thing is that you already touched this argument, but I want to say one few words. But it's very important to know that 2020 and 2019 are two vintages with a huge capacity of agibility. So you can enjoy right now, but if you save in your cellar for 15 years, you can enjoy in 15 years. So always my suggestion for the consumer, that when I speak with some of them, I recommend you, when you have a real beautiful vintage, to keep some bottles, and then you can enjoy step by step, and to save maybe 1 or 2 bottles for the next future.
The notion of saving wine is something that I've always battled with. I have to say, the only way
otherwise you can provide them some vertical collection.
That sounds like a good idea.
Correct.
About 3 weeks ago, we did a vertical of some Sangiovese from Florence, and it was 14 different vintages, and it was such a rare opportunity to see a consecutive lineup like that. It was a terrific experience. But certainly the ageability of the varietal is extraordinary.
Sangiovese, believe me, is one of the, if it's well made, in a right place, with the right microclimate condition, with the right winemaking process, it's really one of the most beautiful grape for the agibility. So you can enjoy a fantastic Sangiovese of 30, 40 years, 50 years. So it's an amazing experience. Hello?
When it comes
Robert?
to long-term celery. But Sangiovese has a role to play and can do. It's been my opinion that Sangiovese has this dual ability to be incredibly rewarding at an early stage, but can equally cellar for a very long time. I was with some private clients who brought out some 1950s and 60s Biondi Santi the other day, and I thought this, they're going to be shot, right? 50, 60-year-olds. Incredible. Really blew me away.
Phenomenal. Yes, correct. So the third one is Il Poggiale, and this is the single vineyard Riserva. And this is made in one of the two oldest vineyards of the property. This is about 49 years old. And here the blend, it's one more time, 100% indigenous grapes. It's 9 Sangiovese, 5 Canaiolo and 5 Ciliegiolo. So Ciliegiolo is another part of the family of Sangiovese. It's with the larger berries and giving into the wine a better concentration and a higher concentration and a higher structure and higher tannins. And that is the addition of Ciliegiolo.
The first thing that hits me is this intensity of fruit. Yes, it's just so contained and powerful. It's an a wonderful step up from the Riserva. The other thing that I'm loving, Alessandro, is a sweet leather on top note, a really beautiful sweetness of leather and tobacco, and also the texture is wonderful. The silkiness, and there's a very specific difference in that component.
Very silky. Yeah. That you are completely right. That is it's very silky. That the touch is it's really silky, and Il Poggiale it's very close to Sodi. So honestly, so it's if you compare the same vintage together, you can really feel that you are in a very outstanding
Oh, okay, so characteristics wise though, they're very different. But what about the soil types? How different are they
between the Poggiale and
between the
Sodi?
two sites? Yeah.
Is Il Poggiale has more schists, and Il Sodi San Niccolo has more limestone. That is the main difference. But in terms of structure, in terms of texture, in terms of deepness in the flavor profile, they are very, very similar. So for some reasons, and the production of Il Poggiale is very limited. So we are producing between 9,000 and 11,000 bottles per year, because once again, it's one of the oldest vineyards of the property. It's close to 50. It's over 49. And the real oldest is the Sodi San Niccolo, that is 53 years old.
I'm delighted to see that Lou bought quite a lot of this. I'm really glad about it, because it's going to be a big winner with the database. There's just this extraordinary refinement about this wine. Everything about it is just refined and tweaked and just amped up. It's very impressive. So
one more word about the three wine in the line of Chianti Classico. So the Chianti Classico regular is the everyday wine. It's perfectly enjoyable with any kind of food for any occasion, with or without food, because that is the wine extremely enjoyable by itself. And the Riserva is exactly in the middle between the Poggiale and the Chianti Classico regular. So you can enjoy the elegance and the finesse, but at the same time, you also enjoy the structure, the concentration that you can see in that wine. And Il Poggiale, it's really the last step.
It's amazing. I'm so glad that Lou got a lot of that for us. I think it's going to be quite a successful one. Okay, there's a question from someone? No? Okay, I thought I had something. Alessandro, let's move now to the Cabernet. Coniale.
Okay. So this Coniale is 100% Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
Coniale and Poggiale are two very small vineyards, so we have 1 hectare each, and production is very limited. We are producing 3,000, 4,000 bottles each wine every vintage, and this production is it's a kind of to confirm, the philosophy that Chianti Classico is one of the most beautiful territory in the wine industry in general,
Yeah.
Because so in the Chianti Classico you can produce fantastic Sangiovese, you can produce amazing indigenous grape varietals like Canaiolo, Ciliegiolo, Malvasia Nera, and many others. But at the same time, you can produce a fantastic expression of international grape varietals. So, and the explanation of that is that Coniale and Poggio Merli has every single vintage over 94, 95 points, One Spectator, Robert Park, enthusiast, and confirming that Chianti Classico is an amazing territory to produce any type of grape varietals. But the most important thing is to keep separate, so to present the international grape varietal by itself. So it's straight focusing into the grape varietals and the synergy with the territory, because both of them, the Cabernet and Merlot, are immediately recognizable by the flavor profile. You can immediately recognize the Cabernet and the Merlot, but at the same time, you recognize that are made in Chianti Classico, in that side of Tuscany, the minerality, the little balsamic taste, balsamic note as a fil rouge between the beginning to the end of the taste. That is the signature of this kind of territory, and means that this is a very, very important aspect in the wine production. And as my mentor, that is Giacomo Takis, as you know, I had the fortune and the privilege to pass with him many years, and you always say the best wine, a top wine, an amazing wine can be like that only if in that wine you can recognize terroir, grape, and the soul of the winemaker. That is.
Well, you've nailed it there, Alessandro, because I was just thinking, tasting this tonight, so often one tends to try to compare Cabernet or other varietals across various regions. There's no question that this is Italian Cabernet. It's the first time really that's distilled the markers for me as how to differentiate it from left bank Cabernet in Bordeaux. There's none of the greenness. There's none of that vegetal component.
No greens at all. No.
Yes. And also, so often I taste Cabernet as a function of an IGT, and I never really get much exposure to 100% Cabernet expression. And so I think tonight's been a bit of a come to Jesus moment for me, because tasting this pure Cabernet crafted so wonderfully, I think for the first time I can see the spectrum now of what Tuscan Cabernet really can be.
Yeah, and the wine is fermented in stainless steel with a very, very long skin contact. We keep between 3 and 4 weeks in skin contact, plus the alcoholic fermentation. So it's about 5 weeks totally. And then we move in concrete, in a small vat in concrete, where we do the malolactic fermentation. And after that, we move the wine in French oak, and that wine is 50% new, 50% second time, and we keep for between 24 and 30 months. So every vintage is different because every vintage following the power and the elegance and many different aspects I decided to use a little bit longer or a little bit shorter time in French oak. At the end,
excuse me.
No, at the end, another 6 or 8 months in bottle before to release, and the wine is ready to enjoy.
One of the things that wins me over about this in the glass is this luscious silkiness on the texture. It's just undulates and ripples. It's very, very clever and very subtle. And the other thing that I really enjoy about it is not too much of the balsamic. The balsamic is there. There's the hint of it, but there's so much, just subtly there. And very often it can be a little bit
light,
too much.
No, I have to add another thing. So your palate must be very sensitive to understand that kind of fil rouge, because you must see the touch of the terroir. So the terroir normally is kind of a very little marker, so you can see the line, but you have to look carefully to understand where the line is.
I think you're being too kind to me. I think I just drink too much. I'm sure Lou would agree if he
No. You are one of the most sophisticated palate I ever made. So I really no. I have to congratulate with you, because I tasted many times with you and side by side, and I had the occasion to see how beautiful is your palate. And
it's very kind of you. Thank you. There's a question from Tilo, Alessandro, about the recommendation for the drinking window of the Cabernet.
It's about after 2 years after the harvest, 2-3 years after the harvest till 15. That is the real best moment. The real best moment. But of course, also in this wine, the life is much longer, of course.
Yes, Sam. This beautiful sex appeal of the Cabernet. It's wonderful. I'm completely entranced with it tonight. I really feel tonight that I've come to understand Tuscan Cabernet a lot more. I've been drinking too many blends, Alessandro.
No, we have also to say that Singapore has a good privilege, because especially Coniale and Poggio Merli are really very, very limited in the world. There are many countries in the world that never appear that labels.
Don't get a look in. Yeah. Well, on that note, let's move to the Merlot.
Yeah, that is it's another specialty. So in the sense that we have a 1.2 hectare of vineyards, and we do a very high selection. So we keep only the best cloister, maximum 2 cloisters per vine, and then we do another berry selection in the cellar before to press a little bit. And then we do the fermentation in stainless steel with another very long skin contact. It's about 5 and 6 weeks, including the fermentation. And then we move also for this wine. That is the commune between Coniale, Poggio Merli, and the Sodi that we use for all 3, the malolactic fermentation in concrete. This is extremely important process, because the concrete helps the polymerization of polyphenols. So it means that all the polyphenols are becoming perfectly round and soft, and making themselves in the best way to show. That is the
so right, it's adding a finesse or a finish or a roundness to the wine.
Absolutely. That is extremely important. And then we keep in French oak. This is the only one in the line with a 100% new French oak. This is the only one, because also the last one is already will be 50% new, 50% second time.
What's your reasoning for the approach for new French oak only in the 100% Merlot?
Because the concentration, the darkness, the complexity is really, really, really high. And for this reason, is the only one for me that can support, can keep the new French oak without to be dominated. No, that is the only one where we can play with stronger French oak.
General, and the Merli in particular, is it doesn't lean into that over flabby plum rich kind of fabric that so often is an expression of Merlot, and is one of the reasons why Merlot's really had a bad rap in the last 20 years. It seems to me that if one looks at Italian Merlot, in contrast to the rest of Europe, there's something a bit grown up about the Merlot that they produce. There's something a bit more finished, and maybe it's this use of concrete that's lending that kind of finished gloss to the wine, because this is definitely a Merlot for grown-ups. It's fantastic.
Yeah. One of your guests sent a message I saw quickly in the screen that regarding about the integration of the tannin. So
Josh.
He remained surprised how the tannin, the oak is perfectly integrated in the structure of the wine. This is extremely important because once again, the oak it's very important in the evolution of the wine. But again, to decide which type of wine, how long, or quantity new, or quantity, or higher quantity new, or high or lower quantity new oak. This is extremely important because at the end, when you taste the wine must be perfectly, the oak must be perfectly integrated in the structure of wine. That is one of the keys of reading the wine. It's extremely important. One of the most challenging part of the job of us.
Alessandro, they talk about in Burgundy, in fact, they never stop talking about the comparison of trying to find a Burgundy that incorporates power and grace. And I think you've actually got it here in this Merli. There's a definite feeling of enormous power in the wine, but everything is already finessed and round and evolved and in place.
Yes.
I have great confidence in the long-term cellaring of this wine. I actually see a longer, I don't know if you agree, but I think I see an even longer cellaring cycle for the Merli than I do for the Coniale.
Yes, correct. And longevity of Merli for me it's over 50 years, so without problem.
It's really sensational.
And once again, it's really limited production. It's around 4,000 bottles.
I remember it was the very first year we brought this one in, and it sat on the site for 6 or 9 months, and every now and again I would taste it, and but it still wasn't selling. It was only until people started tasting its amazing evolution and the way it actually matures, even with just 1 extra year of sitting in the cellar, and it sold immediately. I actually saw the people who were buying it. I thought, here we go. And literally within about 6 weeks, we were dry, and it was too late in the year and too soon in our marketing Castellare to buy a second time. But it's definitely with us for good. Sam, you're absolutely right. It's got an edginess. That's a better description than I came up with by a long shot. It's kind of a dark edginess to the wine. It's wonderful. You just know that in time it's going to open up gloriously well. Sorry, I'm probably drinking too much and getting too expressive. I like the Batman reference to the Merlot. So let's have a look now at the final wine, the Sodi.
Yes. That is, as you see, is a gentleman in a black tie, because you see that as celebrating the 40 vintages, we decided to use a celebrating label, and but it's very important to know that will be a very single shot because starting from 2018, we come back to the classic wine.
It's interesting because so much in my mind when I think of 17 in Tuscany, there's not a lot of 17 in Tuscany that comes out with this incredible grace that the Sodi is doing. Soars.
That is mostly connected with the terroir and the location, the geographic location where we are looking. Because as you know, the property it's a kind of a natural amphitheater, you know. So the cellar in the middle and all around the vineyards, and we are 500 meters elevation, and in front of us we have the Valdelsa. So we have every day a beautiful breeze and cooling down the temperature, even in a very, very hot season, very hot summers. We have a beautiful breeze cooling down the temperature.
So that's the winning shot. That's the winning shot for this wine from a viticultural point of view. You don't have any of that blousy, overblown, terribly tannic structure that so many other wines in 7.
I lost your voice for a second. I lost your voice for a second.
Oh, sorry. There's something very specific and impressive about what you've achieved with this from a 17 vintage.
17 once again was a very challenging vintage because starting from the spring, so in the winter we had a very, very cold winter. The spring was very, very mild, and then the beginning of summer was really, really hot and dry. No rain starting from May to end of July, beginning of August. But once again, the geographic position of the vineyards would make it a very, very special thing in this wine, because once again, so during the day we had maybe 40 degrees, never happened before in that side of Chianti, but at the night is 10. So then these big differences now between 40 and 10, so 30 degrees of difference, that make a really, really important thing in the reaction of the wine and the reaction of the grape to the heat. That is extremely important, and that's for this reason is in this wine you can see a beautiful finesse and beautiful elegance and freshness. You know? So you can never expect a freshness like this in 17. So if you taste blind this wine and somebody asks you somebody asks you which vintage is this, maybe you can say 16 or 18 or 15.
Anything but 17.
Never you can expect 17. No, that is the magic of the place. And of course, this wine is also, there is another very important aspect, that is the management of the vineyard. So that is extremely important. And also the touch of winemaker when we have to decide at the right moment to pick the grapes, the right moment to do the green harvest, the right moment to start the fermentation, because we had also for the first time in my experience of the 29 vintages in Castellare, we had the cryomaceration in order to reduce drastically the temperature of the grapes before to start the fermentation. That was extremely important. It was a challenging vintage, but so believe it or not, the 2017 Sodi was the highest in score, with a summarized the score of Wine Spectator, Robert Parker, Wine Enthusiast, all the most important international wine writers. The Sodi was the highest in terms of score for all of the other Super Tuscan wines.
Well, I'm going to raise that when I actually do the marketing on this, and it's quite unusual to see all three voting similarly at 96 points. I mean, these guys are usually all over the place, right? There seems to be this unanimous
Constant, yeah.
accolation towards how
Yes.
brilliant this year is.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that Tilo has asked about the aging for the Niccolo 17, because I personally feel quite conflicted about the wine, because it is so ready to drink now. It's very hard to say, okay, I'm going to leave that for 5 or 10 years. I know it's going to get better because the traces in the tannins are promising that. They have this wonderful delicacy of tannin that I know will soften and open over time. So I'm particularly interested to hear your answer to that question.
I think this is one of the most important characteristic of this vintage in this wine, that you can really enjoy at the moment when you drink. So even right now, you open the bottle, you really enjoy
Absolutely, yeah.
the wine. And the blend is always the same. Is 85% Sangiovese and 15% Malvasia, and fermented in stainless steel with normally between 4 and 5 weeks of skin contact after very high selection in the vineyard and a second selection in the cellar before to start the fermentation, and then malolactic fermentation in concrete, and 2 years in French oak, 50 new, 50 second time, and another minimum 6, 8, 9 months in bottle before, depend on the vintage, before to send to the market.
Right.
And once again, I'm extremely happy about the result, about the appreciation of the market. And of course, 2017 was not the largest in terms of quantity, but in terms of quality, I had a very high satisfaction, and was so impressive for the Wine Spectator publication that they sent me a photographer there, because they advertise Sodi as a magnificent example of how we can produce great wines also in a very dry seasons.
Sorry, we lost that last sentence from you. I'd very much like you to repeat it if you can, Alessandro. After they sent the photographer, they advertised.
Yeah, they sent to me an official photographer of Wine Spectator in the property to make a picture of the vineyard, to make a picture of the bottles, because Bruce Sanderson described that this is a kind of miracle, also in a wine, in a vintage like this, and was an example as how we can make a super top Sangiovese wine even in a very dry.
In fact, it's a phenomenal credit to you and your winemaking team that you can produce something in such a hard year. It's very impressive. Derek's got a question that's going to always leads me down the rabbit hole. His question is, why is Sodi not?
Did you see the publication? Did you see the publication?
No.
Was in the cover where with the John Bon Jovi in the cover.
Oh, okay. I will definitely look it up, because I get the digital version of that.
I send you by WhatsApp. I send you the copy.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll use that in the media. So Derek's question is, why is Sodi not Chianti Classico or Doc G? Because it's indigenous varietals.
Yeah, because when the Sodi was made for the first time is in 1973. At that time, the recipe of the Chianti Classico was including the white grape varietal, and for this reason wasn't possible to use Sodi as a Chianti Classico, because at that time the original recipe of Chianti Classico was 10% of white grapes.
Got it. Okay, that explains it.
But of course, in 1995, the white grapes disappeared by the population. But so we was outside since the beginning, and we decided to keep the wine outside.
Yeah. So it'll keep us guessing. Just when I think I've got my arms around the Doc G appellation, something like that happens that throws me completely. I'll never stop learning.
No, I think for a wine like this, the appellation is the name of the wine, so the people
they know
doesn't care or think doesn't care about if I think if you put in a line 100 wine lovers and you ask to all of them if they know if, for example, Sassicaia or Nell'Aia, another top Italian wines, if it's DOC, DOCG or IGT, I think just a few really exactly know that there is in one of the other appellation or without appellation. But everybody knows that the wine is great.
That it's good.
So this is the label, is certified the quality of the wine.
Yeah. So in fact, the appellation is not even important anymore because people know that what they're drinking is fantastic. Anyway.
Yeah, for the entry level wines, for the medium level wines, it's important because you classify the wine in that category. But for the real top, doesn't matter. I think that is my philosophy.
Tilo is asking, do you believe in the new concept of Grande Selezione? I guess you do. You don't?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Honestly, not.
Yeah.
Grande Selezione, that is the explanation. So I don't make Selezione there. And this I don't believe, because for me, Grande Selezione doesn't really make a perfect perception of the quality. So for me, the Grande Selezione is mostly a commercial category. That is my idea. And then there is another important aspect. So is starting, for example, talking about Castellare. No, so I am promoting Castellare since 30 years, and I traveled all over the world promoting the wines of Castellare. And every time, starting from 30 years ago, I started to say that Il Poggiale is the highest level of category that I can produce, the best category of Chianti Classico I can produce in the property. So now I feel bad to think that I have to go to my dear customers to say, oh, I'm sorry, starting from now, I became a better winemaker and I can make a better quality with another category of no, it's just not. I don't trust it, honestly. And if you know, and I'm sure you know, especially at the beginning, the regulation allowed to relabel the bottles. So at the beginning, many wineries they used the bottles already bottled as a Riserva for the Gran Selezione, you know, because the Gran Selezione doesn't make. So for me, for Castellare, doesn't bring any additional value. So because they say 100% estate produce, I do 100% of estate produce in all the wine I make. So it's not a question of Gran Selezione or other. 30 months aging. So I do regularly over 30 months aging. So it's honestly, for me, the most important thing is the second step of the consortium, that is the UGA. So the sub-geographic areas that we can advertise on the label. That for me is extremely important. So because all the wine lovers, they can understand the same grape in a different areas of the same region of production. That is for me extremely important. And then we can teach to our wine lovers, our consumer, about the differences between the same grape cultivated in Castellina, the same grape cultivated in Castelnuovo Berardenga, and inside of Castelnuovo Berardenga, for example, there are vineyards cultivated at 200 meters elevation and vineyards cultivated at 450 meters elevation in the same commune, in the same area. But there are two different subzones, probably more than two, but at least two. So the lowest and the highest. No, this is exactly where I am located right now in Valle Picciola. So the beautiful estate that I hope one day you have a chance to come and visit. But we are in the Castelnuovo Belardenga. So the Castelnuovo Belardenga, generally speaking, for everybody in the mind of the people, is the lowest, the southern side of Chianti Classico. But probably just a few knows that inside of the Castelnuovo Belardenga area, there is a hill that is 450 meters elevation. So with the characteristic of the soil to produce stronger wine, but at the same time, 450 meters elevation give a beautiful acidity, beautiful freshness. So it's a completely different expression of the same grape between Pievasciata, the area where we are, and Castelnuovo Belardenga, where is the most like Felsina, for example.
Sounds fantastic. I can't wait to get to taste some.
Great.
All right. Are there any more questions before we let Alessandro go to lunch? I don't think there are. Alessandro, thank you so much for taking so much time with us. I have a lot of
reserve. I can say. That was really a big pleasure, as usual, to be with you. And once again, thank you to Lou, to taking care about our wines with a high passion, high dedication, and all of your consumers are fantastic. And I really appreciate your cooperation, and I thanks to all of you. And
we do a decent pasta.
Yes, anytime okay. When I can bring some of my experience to you, more than happy.
Sounds fantastic. All right, thanks everybody. It was a great night. Grazie a tutti. Ciao. And we'll see you soon. Ciao. Good night.
Robert. Ciao,
bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Everybody, we're taking a break till after Easter with the online tastings, but keep an eye open because there's a lot of very, very good tastings on the board for starting mid-April. We'll start advertising them in about a week to 10 days. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you all soon. Good night. Ciao.